everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service. Today is Mother's Day. I wish for all the mothers in this world Happy Mother's Day. And right now, Venerable Chandasara is going to lead the meditation. After the meditation, Chandana Bhikkhu is going to give a Dhamma talk. After Dhamma talk, question and answer and chanting. Now, ready for the loving kindness meditation.
Good morning to everyone. Let's practice loving kindness meditation. Before that, let's get ready. Be seated in your comfortable posture. Pacify your mind and body so that we can comfortably practice loving kindness meditation. We take a long breath in and breathe out 3 times, and after that we should spread loving kindness meditation in this way. May all the living beings be physically healthy. May all the living beings be free from external disturbances or dangers. May all the living beings be mentally healthy. So first, let us take long breath and breathe out. Okay, let's continue spreading loving kindness meditation from now until we hear the bell sound. I'll recite again the 3 steps to do loving kindness meditation, and then we continue. May all the living beings be physically healthy. May all the living beings be free from external danger. May all the living beings be mentally healthy. Let's continue spreading loving kindness meditation to all the sentient beings in the universe.
Thank you, Venerable Chamsara. Right now, time for the Dhamma talk. Today, our speaker, I believe he is ready right now, Chandana Bhikkhu. Chandana, are you there?
Yes, Bante.
All right. Thank you, Chandana, being with us. You can start your Dhamma talk.
Wonderful. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. I believe in the history of giving Dhamma talks for myself with the IBMC. This probably is the third Mother's Day that it so happens that I'm giving a Dhamma talk. I'm sharing some Dhamma. I don't know if there's some type of a sign there, but I find that to be quite lovely. Mothers are, I'd rather call it motherly qualities, are universal, are to be found in individuals, whether they are biologically, physically mothers or not. So I would like to look at it that way. And specifically looking at the qualities of a mother that is found within the Dhamma itself. To me, that takes the experience or the sensibility, the warmth that a mother represents. And a mother, for us humans, keeps the being in her body for 9 months. 9 months. And she shares her life, literally, with this being. And then, for most of us, or for many people, that carries over throughout the life of the individual, where the mother tends to the needs of the infant, the child, and as they grow up. So many examples are there where the mother comes in, helps out physically, emotionally, etc. Human beings can not provide the best example sometimes of such a mother, and that's okay. That's why I want to emphasize the motherly qualities, which can be seen in a person who has touched us on a deep level with their kindness, with their compassion. It might be that old man by the bus stop, or somebody, some total stranger in your travels who reached over and offered you a cup of tea, or gave you a lovely smile, which is a wonderful experience. So that can also be seen as such a quality, motherly or fatherly. Really doesn't matter, because they come from metta, loving kindness. So I mentioned the motherly qualities of the Dhamma. What do I mean by that? Mothers are there to help us in times of trouble. When we fall and we injure our knees, we scrape our knees, and we start bleeding and we start crying, and mom would run and say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay." She would rub off the dirt and all that, and then ever so often looks at you and wipes your tears and smiles and says, "It's okay." Maybe kisses your forehead. and allows you to experience a little bit less dukkha. A little bit less dukkha. In life, we live usually blind. We're blinded by different things, but mostly our ignorance. That we are bleeding, that we are suffering, that we are in pain, that we are constantly in a state of dissatisfaction, suffering. The Buddha called it dukkha, as he laid out the Four Noble Truths, explaining it for the first time. So, Dhamma is not supposed to be complicated. It's as simple as a mother looking at you, smiling and wiping away your tears. And as you stop feeling, slowly, diminish in experiencing that pain. The moment we come across the understanding, the moment we acknowledge the fact that there is dukkha, instead of running from it, through understanding it, and understanding the causes of it, that's when we can start seeing the Dhamma becoming more and more like a mother. All mothers pale in comparison to the Dhamma. Absolutely. So, but how can a person know that? The more they work on themselves, understanding and working in discovering and uncovering different layers of their lives through the usage of the Dhamma, through the understanding and application of the Dhamma. That is key. That is key. Many beings, human and non-human, devas, divine beings, used to come and listen to Lord Buddha give Dhamma talks. The amount of love that they would receive just from his presence, you can almost see that shooting out of the words in the suttas, radiating out, but only to the heart that is ready to receive that motherly love, that's ready, that's prepared, that is open, and that is non-judgmental. So we are blind so long as we are unable to feel. Feel what? Whatever is around us. See, you can give so much love to someone, but unless those veils of ignorance come down, it will be very difficult for them to identify this wonder that is in front of them. So you can call it prejudice, you can call it all kinds of things. Ignorance is usually what is used in the suttas, in the teachings. So when a person went and listened to the Lord Buddha give a Dhamma talk, hardly anyone walked away without having a transformation taking place. And usually that transformation took place in the form of the eye of Dhamma opening up. Yesterday, during our Sutta Exploration Series class on Zoom, I was mentioning how important it is, while listening to the Dhamma, to be fully there, to be fully available, to allow the words to sink in. And many things can happen. Incalculable beings, human and non-human, attained the first, second, third, even fourth level of awakening simply by listening to the loving words of the Dhamma that penetrate. They cut clean. They cut clean. It's like a heated butter knife. You don't even have to push down. It's like you just put it on top of the stick of butter and it just goes whoop, beautifully. And it lands very well. It's like as if your heart was always waiting for those words. It's just like the caress of a mother's hand, a mother's fingers going through your hair as you lay your head on her lap and she just caresses your hair. It's much more soothing than that, if you can imagine. It's a beautiful thing. So that is why one of the things was basically many people would come back to listen to Lord Buddha give Dhamma talks, to be exposed. In those days, they didn't have YouTube, they didn't have books even. They would talk to each other, they would share whatever. And sometimes transformations could even take place just like that, through the transference of what Lord Buddha talked about. Venerable Sariputta being one of them. When he was not Venerable Sariputta, he was simply Upatissa, the meditator, searching for the Dhamma, searching for the teacher, while he was being taught by someone else, another teacher. But he knew that this was not the real thing. His heart knew. It was looking for its song. It was looking for its melody, if you will. And then he sees Venerable Assaji walk. Venerable Assaji was one of the original 5 disciples, the very first arahants, whom the Buddha taught the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, which is where we have the Four Noble Truths. So Upatissa, prior to being Sariputta, is watching, is observing. And then he goes, and after some time, he listens and he asks, he pleads with them, just give me some Dhamma, some teaching. What is this? Like, who is your teacher? And then Venerable Assaji shares with him a few words. My teacher, he says, has explained that all things that are conditioned arise, and because they're conditioned, they disappear, they vanish. Whatever has a beginning has an end. It's a beautiful, by the way, stanza. I'm not doing it justice by any means, by paraphrasing it. But it's like 4 lines. But from the first 2 lines, just by hearing the Dhamma, Venerable, Upatissa becomes a Sotapanna. Just like that. The authenticity of the Dhamma is crucial, however. We need to be very careful to not dilute it, to not pollute it, not corrupt it. So this is where we have a responsibility to make sure that it is properly maintained. It's not like that telephone game that we used to play. By the 10th person, it's already not even identifiable to the original version of what was said. So what do we do with that, though? When we get the Dhamma, when we do get the loving motherly qualities, is it just a matter of us being on the receiving end and just we get blissed out? We just get, just like that image I used of a child getting their hair caressed by their mother. Is that it? That's part of it. Just a small part. It's a trigger. It's an impetus. The thing that starts, or it comforts and establishes us in something that is truly meaningful, that can get us out of suffering. That can get us out of suffering. But how? Is it going to do it by itself? No, it is entirely in our hands, which is where we, many of us, feel discouraged at times, because it's different when you are actively participating in your own liberation than just being on the receiving end. That's why over time, different versions of Buddhism came about, which were quite polluted and corrupted, where someone else was going to come and save you in some fashion, which for 45 years the Buddha was adamantly against. That's why 500 years later, the Dhamma became quite polluted and corrupted. But we still have the Dhamma in some form. Not in its absolute purest, authentic form. Even at the time of the Buddha, it was kind of, people were putting in their own 2 cents worth, literally, and messing it up until the news would get to the Buddha, and the Buddha would call this monk, and they would confront, they would just sit there and be confronted with the questions from Lord Buddha, and that would clear things up very quickly. But we don't have that luxury. But we have our heart. We have our heart. And that's where the Dhamma lies. That is where the Dhamma, not only the Dhamma, the triple gem is found. The Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha are found in one's heart, which really puts the a responsibility on our shoulders to maintain the purity of these in our hearts. One cannot truly corrupt the Dhamma, of course, but the teachings can be how they're represented. I've come across many people who have tried to convince me that the teachings of the Buddha, and they claim to be very much involved with the Dhamma, Buddhism in one way or another, but when push comes to shove, they were like, it's not going to deliver us the way it used to deliver people from suffering at the time of the Buddha. Those days are gone. Well, that is ignorance, absolute complete ignorance, because the person has not been able to look at oneself and see that the attention needs to be directed here to one's heart, to one's life, and to one's own choices in their actions. And actions come in 3 phases. The first action is the thought action. The second is the verbal action. And the third is the physical action with the body. Many people have taught, and still do, unfortunately, teach that, and Buddhist teachers, that it's the physical body that matters. Well, what's the difference then with Buddhism and Jainism or something else? Contemporaries of Lord Buddha who used to argue the same thing. And the Buddha would correct them. He says, no. Buddhism, the Buddha was the first one, actually, who taught people about the importance of intentionality behind actions, including speech, the intention behind the speech. That's what makes a kamma kamma. That's what makes an action be loaded with kamma vipaka. Basically, the consequences that are to be followed. The intention. So, not enough attention is granted to the importance of how much mental energy we provide behind our words and our actions. I say this because today, in today's world, actually, human beings have become accustomed. We have become accustomed at pointing the finger away from us, to fix the world around us first. And that's when things are going to get perfect. Things are going to get lovely. I'm going to just sigh, get a big, deep sigh of relief at the end of this. At the end of what? At the end of this stick where hangs a lovely orange fake carrot. That's what it is. We have this thing called the addiction of The addictive, rather, Ajahn Mun says it, addictive error of always looking for and finding faults with others. The addictive error in always looking for and definitely finding errors with others. In your behavior, in their behavior, in their choices, in their actions, etc., and completely neglecting actor number one, the key actor in all of this. Nothing the other person can do, nothing you can do, can actually cause me to end up in hell. Nothing. No matter how horrific of a person is in front of me, and atrocities that they might be committing, could ever get me to go to hell. Except for my own actions. It's my actions that will get me to miserable planes of existence, not yours. Yours, that's your thing. So there's too much emphasis being placed on the other. And this is not something new. This has been going on for centuries, but recently it's come to like this crescendo. It's exponentially has reached these heights, these peaks, where there is no attention being given. We're not even mothering ourselves when we fall and scrape our knees, metaphorically speaking. We're too busy looking at other people. We're too busy being pulled into the storyline of whatever is out there. Hence, there isn't Dhamma being practiced in the world much, because everybody's attention is away from their heart, from their mind, from their bodies even. It's always directed outward. What kind of a life is that? And then we look around us and we get an idea that this cannot go on. Me pointing the finger at you, at the others, that it could ever bring any sense of happiness. It's a delusion. Hence, we're back to ignorance, avidya. And so long as there's avidya, there can never be nibbana. Not even a tiny little, puny little bit of nibbana where it could go, the mind could actually relax. So this is where a person needs to take responsibility and really learn how to mother themselves. With the help of the Dhamma, of course. I'm not suggesting for us to start in a vacuum, to work on this in a vacuum. Fortunately, really, we live at a time period where there is still some Dhamma left. Some Dhamma left. And it is as good as it gets. And it is, in many ways, very close to the original teachings. Why? How do we know this? The Eightfold Path the Eightfold Path is being taught. It's still there. And there are those who practice it. And Lord Buddha said, so long as the Eightfold Path is there, it hasn't been lost. And so long as it is being taught properly, and so long as, this is the most important part, people are practicing the Eightfold Path, the world will never be short of arahants. So, but we don't need to just rely on words from 2,600 years ago, of course. That's why we have to come back to us. Pachattam veditabbo vinyuhiti, Buddha says, it is to be realized by the wise for themselves, those who mother themselves, those who actually pay attention to the work at hand by not pointing the finger away from them. pointing them back, 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 back. The addictive error in finding fault with others, that is something that needs to be relinquished today, because that's not going to get us anywhere. And your mind is going to put up a major fight, of course, justifying the decency, the nobility in your approach, in going after tooth and nails against this principle, this group of people. It's for their own good, to defend this or that, whatever. Meanwhile, you have left the palace gates open, wide, and the defilements are just raging mad, tearing it apart, meaning your heart. We need to scrape that wound. We need to close the gates of injury so that we don't allow more ignorance to dominate our lives. So we need to mother ourselves more, care for ourselves more. That's where I find the Dhamma, one of its synonyms for me is that it is like mother. One time when I was listening to a Dhamma talk, it so moved me, I just started crying. Tears of joy, because I realized how the Dhamma taught by Lord Buddha is sweeter than a mother's milk. But it needs to be applied. It needs to be taken care of. We need to manifest that quality within us. But we have to be realistic, first of all. So let's drop that addictive quality of the error of finding faults with others, because that quality embitters the heart, makes us jagged, makes us like the surface, the ground surface of the desert floor that hasn't scorched, that hasn't seen a drop of rain for ages. Brutal, instead of the soft, soft, soft touch of a mother. So I wanted to share these thoughts, and apologies for the rooster calling in the background if you guys could hear. I'm surrounded by roosters where I live, so yes. Let's bring that quality in us. Instead of just celebrating Mother's Day once a year or a month, it's still not enough. Let's bring that quality. Every time we're becoming mindful of our thoughts, of our words, of our actions, you're actually taking care of your mind, yourself, your heart. But so long as there isn't that judgmental voice, see, fault finding, whether it's directed towards someone other than yourself or to you, is still damaging if it is not being applied with wisdom, especially in context of pointing the finger back at us. So we're not talking about, just looking for reasons to judge ourselves. No, that's not wisdom. We need to apply skillful means with wise attention, with care and love, but while adhering to the Dhamma in the form of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, the three trainings. So starting every morning with Sila, taking the 5 precepts, is extremely important. Yesterday I was talking with the group of meditators in Armenia, and I was mentioning how taking the 5 precepts is like your North Star. In the middle of the night, when you're all the way out there in the open water, by yourself in a small ship, a boat, that North Star will carry you through your tough day. It's like your compass. So it is absolutely indispensable There's no way that a person can attain any of the stages, supramundane stages of the Dhamma, what the Buddha taught, without sila. Forget about it. No amount of ritual, no amount of puja, no amount of mantra, no amount of recitation of any sutta or sutra can ever get you to experience anything that is worth writing home about. It doesn't transform any of it, so long as there's no sila. Sila has to be there, period. It's the discipline. And that creates the room, the space for mind with the practice of meditation. Even if you are aware of your in-breath and out-breath, once even during the day, it completely changes the quality of your day. Just once. But fully being there. Now, if you can take that and multiply that through every single in-breath and out-breath throughout your day, wow. Just imagine. Now we're practicing sila and samadhi, the two trainings, two of them, which open the door to panya to take place, wisdom. Then wisdom is not something that we read about or collect data or read, be able to cite some suttas here and there. The Buddha said this. Who cares? How does that get reflected in my life? In my way of, am I living life mindfully? Am I aware of the intentionality behind me wanting to say something to you? To do this thing, or to find faults with someone else. So that's why it's a very personal path. No one can walk it for us. And no one can save us. No one can enlighten or awaken us. None of the attainments are given, by the way. It's impossible. So let's take ownership and enjoy the comfort, the softness of the heart as we mother it, as we tend to our wound of ignorance and say, okay, let me start. We got to start from somewhere. We got to start from somewhere. And each of us is on our own journey. So, and I wish you much success on your journey with the help of the Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And I will pause here and open for questions and comments that you may have. I can't see hands, so I don't know how people write or... Cool. In the silence, we can continue to meditate. Check the dimensions of your lips, of your cheeks, the muscles, as they extend. It's a wonderful feeling as the corners of the lips go up. Parts of the brain start lighting up. It's like falling in love, holding a puppy or a newborn.
Does anybody have any question?
I might have one.
Yes.
Dante. There was something I was thinking about the 5 precepts in that we take. I was always thinking about my thoughts that maybe it doesn't get to an action that I perform to a certain person, but I might think wrongly about them. I just wanted to clarify which of those principles is it included in that I cut, if it's possible.
From the way what I gathered from your question, let me ask this then. What is the feeling tone? Feeling tone. If you want to put a word to that feeling, what would it be? Is it Pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it...
Clearly not.
That's right. So there might be dosa there, which is ill will.
Mhm.
See, I can say to a person, I love you, or I care about you, whatever, but deep down, I'm saying something else, or I'm feeling something else, or I'm trying to convince myself that no, I really do love them. Meanwhile, deep in my heart, there's something totally different going on. But interestingly enough, the person on the receiving end of it, my words, they feel uneasy. The authenticity of the genuine feeling doesn't get to be missed out by the other person. They sense something that is wrong. That's why we all have this inherent quality. When you walk into a room or somebody comes in or somebody introduces themselves or says something nice to you or smiles, just smiles. A smile is supposed to make us feel good. But for some reason, sometimes we feel threatened by a smile, even though they're even saying some nice things. Now, of course, I cannot control what the other person is doing. So my invitation to you would be something like, pause before you take the precept and just ask yourself, okay, what is going on? Ask your heart. Simple questions are answered beautifully by the heart. You can call it intuition or whatever, but don't complicate it. Just simple question like, what is this feeling? Is this, like I asked you, is this a good, what's the feeling tone? Is it good? You just shook your head side to side. You knew already. So your heart already knows better than I do what's going on. And then once you come to that understanding, that even the process of taking the precepts can become an impetus, an opportunity for there to be the gaining of insight into the inner workings of the heart. So even the taking of the precept can cause you to have wisdom. And then you come from that point with that understanding, and now your taking of the precepts has a newer depth and nuance to it. An understanding of what the precepts are, but definitely of an understanding of who you are and the mechanism of the purity of the precept that needs to be there. It's not a matter of panatipata veraman. I undertake the precept to not kill or harm beings. That might just be otherwise lip service. But understanding the spirit of that, the meaning on a very visceral level, I really don't want to touch the single hair on the back of this insect. I really don't want to, because I want them to get home safe. And that gives you that sense of, so now you're like a mother to that being. So it's not a matter of like enforced. Otherwise, many times, those of us who come to the Dhamma Buddhism from different cultures, different traditions or religious backgrounds, sometimes we carry the Judeo-Christian thing with us. It's a commandment that I have to do this every day. My teachers, no. And you take precepts throughout the day. I just mentioned that once in the morning, so kind of like you set the direction for your day. But during the day, you're going to break some precepts, and that's fine. But is there sati for you to stop, realize what happened, not beat yourself over it, see it, and take the precept again, retake it. But be genuine when you're just there and like, yeah, I don't want to do it again. Okay. We retake it so that we forget about it. Otherwise, it's going to turn into remorse. And now we really have to struggle through the day, because now it's like a downward spiral. It's going to pull us down. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's just my mind normally tricks me into saying, oh, you're not cutting any of the precepts because there's nothing said about thoughts. But now I get it. If I feel that's something wrong, I need to stop and take the precepts again.
Absolutely. But know where you're coming from. What's the emotional? What's the feeling tone?
Yeah.
Another question. What do you do when ill will feels more natural, almost comfortable than goodwill? Okay, just switch roles. Put yourself on the receiving end of your natural feeling, comfortable feeling, ill will that you're about to radiate to the world. You're about to send out, mail out to somebody over there. The poor fellow who's going to be receiving that ill will, even though habitually the person has been used to. This happens a lot with individuals who've been raised in families that or surroundings that there's been domestic abuse and all kinds of, harmful expressions, physical or verbal. Verbal can do huge damage. So checking one's own attitude before you allow the ill will to go ahead and be sifted, be filtered. Like I was just mentioning, where is this coming from? Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm just thinking it. There's no harm in that, right? Oh, yeah. It is, think of the thought action like the very spine, animated spine that you put inside a body. Now the body can move. The body being here a metaphor of physical action. Without a spine, the body can't move, right? So, rough speech or harsh speech, that sometimes it's called, is something that is harder to stop. But you can actually, a quick tool that you can give to yourself, I'll just say this, and because I know we're going into the time, is the verbal abuse, for example, that some of us can experience as children, and we just carry on that baton and pass it on to someone else. And now we're spreading fire. If I was feeling hurt, now you're going to feel hurt. So this is where we can actually put a limit. Like you can even put like a glass jar, and every time you're using a harsh word, verbal abuse to someone, put $1 in there. This is what we used to do with kids in school. So things like that. And which is basically another reason, monetarily, you're inducing a state of mindfulness, actually, financially, because you're paying for that. So yeah, we can talk about this because I'm getting direct messages. So you can send me an email on this so I can address it more thoroughly than this. So I hope that helps. Bante, how are we with time? I think we're there.
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening. I think it's almost 12 o'clock.
Yes, Bante.
Yes, thank you, Chandana, and have a wonderful day, okay?
Yes, Bante.
Thank you again. We'll talk to some other time.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Thank you for everybody. We're going to chanting a little bit, page 4 and page 10. Next Sunday, I believe what day, Vinita? Yes, next Sunday, coming Sunday, 16, our Dhamma talk going to give Silas Maharjan, the Nepalese Dhamma teacher. He's going to give a Dhamma talk. And I believe 23rd or 24th or whatever. 23rd, we're going to celebrate the Vesak celebration. So let me know how many people can attend. I believe basically some members, they will come. We're going to do outside little bit small group we can gather because Los Angeles City allowed to do those things right now, no problem. And most people got ready vaccine also. Still we have to be careful. We will take care of all the rules and regulation. It's going to be a 23rd outside backyard hour. Thank you again for everybody. Now we're going to chant the page 4 and page 10. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato
samma sambuddhassa.
Buddham saranam gacchami.
Dhammang
Saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam
gacchami.
Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fearless be. May the grieving shadow of grief and the sick find
held relief.
Mingi kukundu poka unyani nyadang isunye sunye yadam dadam Dingi kukundu poka unyani nyadang sunyi sunyi dadam dadam Mingi kongko poka unani nyadam Suchanye sanye yadam dadam Thank you again for everybody. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, you will all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.